Flow. We've heard about this. Have you ever wondered how you could actually hack this and turn it on and off as you want to use it? If you want to learn that, stay tuned. Hi, this is J.H. Clay for Coaching ADD. No doubt you remember those times when you left assignments to the very last minute. And what happened? You buckled down. You got this laser focus. You managed to write the paper or whatever the task was, and it turned out pretty well. In fact, it might have turned out quite well. You were in a state of flow at that time. And we talk about flow as if it's this sort of thing beyond reach that somehow we magically achieve with the wave. And we talk about flow as if it's something magical, and indeed it is. And we talk about flow as if it's elusive, as if it comes at a whim, but we can actually recreate this. You've no doubt heard the myth that we only use 10% of our brain. Well, just the opposite is true. Let's imagine we're doing a simple activity, maybe pouring a cup of coffee or a glass of milk or a bowl of cereal. This unleashes a storm of neuronal activity. All the frontal lobes, the parietal lobes, the basal ganglia, and the parietal lobes, the frontal lobes, the cerebellum, the basal ganglia, all the sensory motor structures come into play in this massive communication that takes but an instant, but it is a storm in the brain of electrical activity. But what happens during flow is just the opposite. We tend to reduce the activity of our prefrontal cortex. This is a temporary state, but when we shut this down, we're shutting down the part of our brain that makes logical decisions. That's part of the issue around long-term planning, perception of time. And that's why we're in flow. Time seems to disappear on us. In flow, we actually use less of our brain. All the risk-taking and anxiety goes away, and our creative power turns up massively during this period of time. The signaling rate in our brain actually increases during this time, and this increases both physical and cognitive performance. In the book, The Rise of Superman, he details how people do these extraordinary physical feats. And if they didn't do them exactly right, they basically would die. And they are in a state of flow to be able to do this. But we can capture this when we apply it to our work. And it's a matter of setting various conditions for us to do that. I have a recent book called The Optimized College Student. And this book took me about 12 hours to write. And I created those conditions that were ideal for me creating flow. This was truly a flow project, and it came out really well. I'm really pleased with it. And you can find this on Amazon. To create flow, we want to create a certain set of circumstances. First of all, we want to block interruptions for anywhere from 90 to 120 minutes. And I find this is a good amount of time to sit and really dive deep. Plus, you need to get up every once in a while and move around. Having passion or purpose for something, this is a driver for us to pay attention. As I've said before, an ADD brain is a stimulus-driven brain. And what drives that stimulation better than purpose and passion? Well, there is no greater power to fuel that creativity and that drive. Complexity. We're drawn to things that really stretch us. And this is an aspect of flow. I found this in the course of doing psychotherapy. There were times where it would be like everything on the periphery was just erased. It ceased to exist. And the time for a 50-minute session would go by in the blink of an eye. And these were times I was in flow because of the complexity of what doing good psychotherapy is about, because it's facilitation. We want to have clear goals. I had a very clear goal in terms of doing this book. I mean, as clear as contract. It was clear, it was concrete, write a book. It's that push-pull between challenge and your skills. I had the skills of writing. I had the skills of putting things together. Yet it was a challenge to make it come out looking right. Deep embodiment. Well, what do I mean by this? With deep embodiment, we are really comfortable in our physical setting and in our body. We feel in a safe manner, and it increases our ability to stay in the present moment. And it allows us to feel all of our sensations. Another factor is fairly immediate feedback. When I would write a chapter, I would go reread it and I would think about it for a moment. And I'd think, is this really what I want to say? And it was not so much editing. I did that on second and third passes. It was just seeing that I had the content where I wanted it to be. All of these factors bring us into that present moment. And the other side of the coin for ADD is not the inability to focus. It's the inability to regulate it. And the other side of this coin is actually that hyperfocus, which many professions really seek to cultivate. Imagine a surgeon doing a 6-hour surgery. You want that person hyper-focused for that 6 hours, let me tell you. Well, people with ADD come by this aspect of hyper-focus or flow quite naturally. But you can bring it about when you want it to happen by setting up these conditions that drive you toward this. Now, if this has been a useful presentation for you, please hit the like button. It drives the algorithm and it brings this content out before more people. Also, I'd really appreciate any comments you have on any aspect of this video, be it content or presentation. I would really value your feedback. Until next week, this is G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD. Oh, by the way, take a second and think about who you might share this with who could use this as well. Take care.